Sons of Liberty, some of the earliest patriots, was formed in 1765 in response to the Stamp Act. Upon the repeal of the Stamp Act, the group formed committees of correspondence to further advocate against the tyranny of the British king. In 1772, Samuel Adams wrote The Rights of Colonists.
Among the natural rights of the colonists are these. First, a right to life. Secondly, to liberty. Thirdly, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner they can. Those are explicit in, not deduced from, the duty of self-preservation, commonly called the first law of nature. All men have a right to remain in society as long as they please, but in the case of intolerable oppression, to leave the society they belong to and enter into another. When men enter into society, it is by voluntary consent, and they have a right to insist upon the performance of such conditions and previous limitations as form an equitable contract. Every natural right not expressly given up or from nature of social contract necessarily ceded remains. Just and true liberty in matters spiritual and earthly is a thing all men are clearly entitled to, and by the eternal and immutable laws of God and nature, as well as by the law of nations and all well-grounded law. The natural liberty of men by entering into society is abridged or restrained only so far as is necessary for the common good. In short, it is absurd to suppose that men, when entering into society, can renounce their essential natural rights or the means of preserving those rights when the purpose of civil government from its very nature is for the support, protection, and defense of those very rights. Among them, as is before observed, life, liberty, and property. If men, through fear, fraud, or mistake, should give up any essential natural right, the eternal law of reason would absolutely vacate such renunciation. The rights to freedom, being the gift of God, it is our duty to preserve and protect them.
In response to the protest of the colonists, many taxes were repealed. However, the duty on tea was retained to demonstrate the power of Britain over the colonies. On the evening of December 16, 1773, a group of Bostonians, led by Samuel Adams, boarded 3 British ships and emptied their cargo of tea into Boston Harbor. We remember their revolutionary spirit today, and it remains deep in our hearts and in our minds. Thomas Jefferson was a delegate to the Second Continental Congress. He was one of a committee of 5 appointed to draft a declaration explaining the decision to separate from Britain. The committee asked Jefferson to draft the paper, and according to committee member John Adams, Jefferson replied, "Well, if you are decided, I will do as well as I can." What Mr. Jefferson and his compatriots wrote changed the world forever. On July 4th, 1776, the Declaration of Independence was formally adopted. And now, my fellow patriots, an abridged version of our Declaration of Independence.
When, in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, having its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. We, therefore, the representatives of the United States of America in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name of and by the authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right ought to be, free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have the full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.